let's get into the kickoff. We are starting it different this week. We are going straight into the NFL news. We have been waiting for this, people. We have been waiting for the NFL news to spike. We've been waiting for something to come up in the NFL. Now, we've talked about Deshaun Jackson last week. That's a one-off. We talked about, Pat Mahomes signing his huge contract. That's that. Majority of the information that I have reported on in the previous weeks have been either, contract extensions or players requesting a trade or, stuff that really doesn't matter. But we're going to get into NFL's finally, they're not silent. They are being affected by COVID-19. The last major thing that we've heard from the NFL is that they canceled the Hall of Fame game in the first 2 weeks of the preseason. But we have some updates, people, and we're getting into that in the kickoff section. So, first of all, NFL wants to cut the cap by $40 million. $40 million. And I mean the Dr. Evil $40 million. So some of you might be asking why this is the case, but majority of you, if you're watching the show, you're sports fans, and you probably know why they want to cut this is because of COVID-19. All the major sports leagues are moving towards a fanless experience just for the time being as COVID, continues to spike. And, one of the sports that are going to get hit, or the sports that are going to get hit the hardest is NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, because there's a lot of money that goes into the experience, the whole experience. You want fans in the seats. You want to be selling out arenas. You want that home field advantage. You want to be selling more merchandise at the arenas that are overpriced. You want to be selling the overpriced popcorn that's burnt on the side. You want to be selling the foot-long hot dogs that people are buying for $20. You want to be selling the $30 beers that people are buying. So there's a lot of money that is generated within the game only that brings a lot of value to the NFL and brings a lot of value to the team. So one of the things that they take into account, and when I say they, I mean the NFL, when setting up the salary cap is their projected revenue. And the projected revenue is going to take a hit because now they can't have fans at the game. And the fan experience is a big thing for all the NFL teams and the NFL as a whole. There are some stadiums that have built their stadium just based on the fan experience of socializing. For example, the Jacksonville Jaguars, when their team was terrible, I mean, you could still make an argument that they're still terrible. My apologies to my boy Lee, who's a big Jacksonville Jaguars fan, but they built their stadium to have a fan experience socially. So you have your jacuzzis. No one's going to be watching a damn football game while they're sitting in a jacuzzi. So you have jacuzzis there. You have your areas where people can meet. Some people just want to go to football games to interact with other people. They have no intention of watching the game. They're not even big football fans. And this is something that you see usually in the Super Bowl. So in the Super Bowl, the regular fan, for the most part, is not able to afford it. For the fans that are able to, that love football, God bless you. You're able to experience that. But a lot of the people that attend these Super Bowl events are people that have the finances to purchase the tickets, $10,000 tickets. Now, $10,000, I'm just throwing out an arbitrary number. I don't know the exact cost for the tickets, but it's definitely in the thousands. And you don't see your average fans at the Super Bowl. So a lot of stadiums where their team is not that great, they try to build the stadium around the fan experience where people want to go and interact. So again, getting back to my point, sorry, I'm going off on a whole tangent, but with there being no fans at the stadiums, that is going to cut into the NFL's revenue. And according to NFL.com, so NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported Thursday night that the NFL has proposed cutting each team's player costs by $40 million in salary cap and or benefits for this season per sources informed of the situation. That move replaces a previous proposal that called for 35% of the players' salaries to be held in escrow to aid in managing costs. So, obviously the first thing that the NFL wants to do and the owners want to do is say, hey, if there's not going to be any fans, we want to cut the player costs. The players are clearly not going to be okay with that, and I'll actually get into that again in the NFL article. Pelissero added that the Per the collective bargaining agreement, the NFL and the NFLPA must negotiate in good faith to manage a projected multi-billion-dollar revenue shortfall. The players' union prefers to spread the hit over future salary caps, while the league wants to help managing costs now. So a projected multi-billion-dollar revenue shortfall in 2020 would be accounted for in 2021, causing the salary cap to drop in the range of $50 million to $70 million per club. League wants a deal done before camp, and the union is in no rush. And I don't blame either side. It's in the NFL's best interest to strike a deal now where they could cut salary cap, just because they have nothing to lose, right? There's uncertainty. Worst case scenario, they have no fans attending the games, and they put this deal together, and it's good. 2020, we're good. We already agreed with the players that we're going to cut the salary by X amount, and players in the union are in no rush to sign this, because the longer they hold it off, the closer we get to society getting back to normal, the closer we get to vaccination, the closer we get to better procedures in place, the closer we get to better testing. So we can see why both ends of the spectrum are, one trying to rush it and the other one trying to hold off. It sucks that it has to be this way, and it's unfortunate for NFL players that they have to worry about these things, but they are professional athletes. They hold a little bit more power. Well, they hold a lot more power than people in the corporate industry, where people could just get laid off. NFL, these players are valued. They have their own brand. There's not much you could do to kind of throw them off as far as the top tier guys. The lower ones, we'll get into that, because the NFLPA also agrees to no preseason and to set the roster at 80. So this sucks for some of those players that are on the bubble and want that extra time to, well, number one, have a preseason so they could show their skill set. So the undrafted free agents, those guys are going to be hit the hardest, because usually you have 4 preseason games. In some cases you have 5 if you're playing the Hall of Fame game, to show your skill set and make a push for the roster, compared to someone who was drafted by the team. Teams want to hold on to those players that they drafted because they spent draft capital to get those people. If you cut someone that's an undrafted free agent, there's really no ties there. You didn't spend any draft capital. You might have given, a nice guarantee when it comes to undrafted free agent, but there's not really anything holding you to that player. So unfortunately for those people, they lose out in the preseason this year. And then the NFL also bumps the roster down from 90 to 80. So Tyler Sullivan from CBS Sports states that the Players Association noted that roster sizes for training camp are expected to be set at 80 players to start camp, which is down 10 players from the traditional 90-man roster you typically see under normal circumstances. So this makes sense, right? You have, now you have less overhead, less players to pay, and then you also have less people in the building, so you're not, everybody's all circled up and close to each other. The less people, the better for the NFL and the NFLPA. So I can see why they agreed to this. Again, it's unfortunate for those people that are on the bubble, but if they continue to hit, grind and do whatever they can to get back to where they are, currently, then, you never know where you just got to keep working. You can't let it go just because of certain circumstances. 2020 has not been great for everyone. It's been great for, companies like Amazon and Jeff Bezos getting paid, but that's a whole different topic. 2020 has not been great for majority of the people, including the people that are finding themselves out of work. So while $40 million of salary cap in the NFL is a big deal in sports world, the grand scheme of things, where a lot of people are not able to pay rent, it's very small. But this is a sports show, so we'll stick to that. The NFL also made news because they're allowing players and teams to do helmet decals. Goodness, that my little protein shake is messing up my stomach, but so I apologize, guys, if you hear that. So NFL to allow helmet decals for the players and teams, and let me give you some more information on this. So SI reports in their article that the league has been in talks with individual players and the union since June about somehow honoring such victims. The initiative will be done league-wide, with each team deciding who it will honor and how it will display the names. And when they say the victims and the names, they're speaking of victims of police brutality, the same exact thing that Colin Kaepernick was kneeling down for. This is to bring awareness to police brutality. This is bringing awareness to the inequity and the inequality in the world, and specifically in the U.S. So the NFL is making strides, compared to the NBA, who is allowing players to wear slogans on their jerseys. The NFL's trying, right? This is obviously reaction to what's happening. They're not proactive, because if they were proactive, they would have allowed Colin Kaepernick to remain in the league and not whiteball him. But it's never too late to be on the right side or to do something right. And the NFL is doing something to at least bring more awareness to what's happening in the U.S. And we can't do anything but commend them for at least taking a stance, even though it's kind of late. They're doing something right, so we got to at least look at it like that. And then also when it comes to NFL coronavirus, COVID-19, however you want to say it, the NFL has had 59 positive cases. And this was a drop from 90 cases from the last time they published numbers. So from 90 to 59, it's still a lot. I mean, I don't care if it was a drop of 40 players. It's still a lot of positive cases for the NFL. And as I stated in my previous podcast in the Hail Mary section, I don't think that there will be any football in 2020. So that's unfortunate, but we will move on to the 1st and 10 segment. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for more fire sports takes. And for those of you who are on the go, make sure you subscribe to our full show, which airs every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a bunch more. Until then, I'm chucking it up, and I'll see you guys next time.